We have a lot of news to discuss today. We have some big news out of Columbus, including Patrik Laine being benched and a surprise retirement. We have some trade rumors concerning the Vancouver Canucks, as well as the New York Rangers, some injury updates. We'll discuss the latest news coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. Now, as I mentioned, we have a lot to cover here today. A couple of quick things right off the bat. We have no news on the NHL waiver wire. Nobody's on the waivers at all, so there's no news in that regard. And we do have another postponement. The game tonight between the Flyers and the Capitals has been postponed, obviously due to COVID-related issues. So yet another postponement. They've also rescheduled games for the Coyotes and Blues. Looks as though they're going to end up playing each other 7 consecutive games, considering their other opponents have been shut down temporarily here. So not good news. At this point, it's going to be challenging to get all 56 games played for all teams. There is a slim possibility that the NHL will look at pushing the playoffs back a little bit if they have to get games squeezed in at the end. But I guess we're going to have to take the wait-and-see approach, because like I said before, I think they're only going to make the effort to complete games if they're going to have an impact on the standings and will impact a playoff position. So stay tuned for that, but hopefully we can avoid more cancellations here in the near future. A quick injury update. Zach Kassian, I'm not sure exactly the full extent of the injury for the Oilers, but he did have a fight last night. Very early on, he only had a 30-second shift and then had a fight with Senators defenseman Erik Gudbranson. Kassian was hurt, and now he's going to be on long-term injury reserve, so that means he's going to be out for 28 days. So that's quite a stretch of games for Kassian to be down. The Oilers were already playing a forward short last night, so we'll see what any subsequent moves they make. Obviously, they can use some players from their taxi squad. Probably going to be more of a chance for a guy like Alex Chiasson, for example, who's been in and out of the lineup here over the last number of weeks. Now, as I mentioned as well, we have some news out of Columbus. It's been quite the news cycle in Blue Jackets territory here in recent weeks. Of course, we had the huge trade with Dubois and Laine not long ago. Laine is now only in his 4th game with the Jackets, and we've already have a controversy where John Tortorella benched the star Finnish player last night. I know overall his 200-foot game probably wasn't the best. I'm sure he had some frustrations with Laine on the defensive side of the puck, but he's scored some goals. He's actually been doing well offensively, which is good. He's on a new team, new systems. But you know what Torch is like. He's got his way of the law, and if you don't play the way he likes, then he will sit you down. He's not afraid. He doesn't care how big the name on the back of the jersey is. Biggest concern is the logo on the front of the jersey, but the story gets even a little bit more, a little odd, you could say. Aaron Portzline of The Athletic, the Blue Jackets beat reporter, has gone on radio in Montreal, I believe it was, earlier today talking about the situation, and he himself has said he often wonders if John Tortorella might be trying to get himself out of Columbus, and starting to wonder if he really wants to be there anymore, and maybe he's on the expectation that he could be fired soon. I'm not really sure, but clearly you have to think there might be a bit of a disconnect between Jarmo Kekalainen and John Tortorella. We've seen Kekalainen try to make some adjustments to this team and bring in more offensive players, and as he does, Tortorella obviously wants them to play a certain way, more defensive-minded, and if they don't do that, they sit. We saw that with Max Domi. Of course, he was acquired in a big trade for Josh Anderson this offseason with Montreal, and of course, we saw Domi end up getting that treatment. I believe it was his 1st or 2nd game that Torts already had him sitting for a good stretch of time as well. But I just don't agree with how long he benches players. Like in this case, Patrik Laine sat for the entire 3rd period and a good chunk of the 2nd as well. So why does he have to drag it on so long, take him aside, miss a few shifts, talk things through? I don't understand. I know a lot of people like and respect the way he coaches. I just don't think it's something that goes over well with big-time players, and at the end of the day, they have to work together as a team, and it's not going well. That team has had such a hard time getting star players to stay. There's got to be something to it, and my guess is that Tortorella is the common denominator, as much as a lot of these guys publicly would never want to say that. Look, for example, a lot of people would agree with me that their top defenseman, Seth Jones, has really not been overly good this year. He's not up to his usual standards, but yet he's still playing 24, 25 minutes a night. I don't see him making an example out of Seth Jones. So it seems to be certain players that kind of rub him the wrong way. So we will see. I mean, I won't be shocked if Laine does outlast Tortorella in Columbus. I mean, he's a pending RFA. He just got there. They know what he went through in Winnipeg. They're going to want to sign this guy and keep him around as a perennial goal scorer. Might be the best goal scorer they've had since Rick Nash in his primetime years. I don't know. It's not a good situation, not off to a good start. I'm not going to say that there's Patrik Laine trade rumors already. That's a little premature, but at this rate, if things keep going the way that it is, I have to wonder if he might not want to stay too long unless there is a change behind the bench. So we'll see. Certainly a story that's worth keeping an eye on, at least for the time being. We'll see how Laine ends up and how happy he is with the Jackets. Now, the other big news that was even more surprising today that came out of their organization was that center iceman and longtime veteran Mikko Koivu up and retired today. Just announced his retirement and caught everybody off guard. Essentially, he put out a statement just saying that he doesn't feel like he's playing up to his usual standards to be able to really help the team, and that he wants to retire and kind of just step away because he doesn't feel he can be what he needs to be to play the role he's supposed to play. So I guess it's somewhat honorable in a way to say, you know what, I'm not living up to my end of the bargain here. So I think it's time for me to go. But at the same time, that's another big blow for Columbus. I mean, obviously, it's a key center iceman. I know they had high hopes that he would be a really good fit as a number 3 center, and he was trying to do that. Maybe we'll see Max Domi go back to center. I know the Domi experiment at center ice didn't seem to last long with Tortorella. He's been playing, I noticed at least a few times. I haven't seen every Columbus game, obviously, but on the wing too. Like Alex Texier's had opportunities to play a lot in a top center spot. And obviously Roslovic has been playing really well since he's got there. So, I mean, they do have more options than they used to at center, which is good. But it's certainly going to be, create a hole for them down the middle, especially in their bottom 6 for the Jackets there. So we'll see. I mean, Koivu is the kind of player that I know Torts would really like and be able to deploy in this lineup. So we'll have to see how they respond. Maybe if they make any subsequent moves to try to replace them. They're not the deepest team, in my opinion, but they do play by committee and play as a team as Tortorella wants them to. And when they do that, they can certainly be successful. Mentioned we have some trade talk around the Canucks and the Rangers. Quick update here on Tony DeAngelo, who was really most of us thought might be traded by now based on reports we've seen in the past week, indicating that there was a lot of interest out there in Tony D and that the Rangers were talking with 4 or 5 teams. Talks were heating up. Some were reporting the Rangers were willing to retain salary. Some were saying they weren't. There's a conflict there, but either way, at this point, it looks as though interest has kind of dried up on the defenseman, as many teams are more fearful of the fan base and kind of the PR reaction to bringing DeAngelo into their organization than anything else, especially his on-ice ability. Because we know on the ice he can be a good offensive defenseman. Defensively, yes, he's not real strong, but still, there's a lot of teams he could be a solid offensive D-man, and you could overlook those things if you paired him with the right guy. And there's lots of defensemen around the league like that. He's certainly far from being the only one, but at the end of the day, it's all the off-ice antics and the drama that he's created over the years. He's had numerous chances, as we discussed before. It's not like it's the first time something like this has come up. Obviously he went through a lot in junior, just getting to the NHL. He's on his 3rd NHL team already, and now more drama, and of course they want him to be moved on. So I think at this rate, it might be more likely that they end up letting him sit at home for the rest of the year and then buying him out. As I mentioned, because he's still an RFA, the buyout's only 1/3 of the remaining salary instead of 2/3, so it's a lot cheaper than usual. You don't normally see RFAs be bought out like that. Obviously, they're usually younger when playing well, so it's not something that's very common, but it's something that could happen in this scenario. But right now, we'll have to wait and see what happens with DeAngelo. But all the interest we had reported on before seems to have kind of dried up and gone by the wayside, as they're just too concerned about all the other stuff that comes with them. So we'll see if they find a way to get him moved out of their organization. Now, when it comes to Vancouver, their struggles continue. We saw them have another loss to the Toronto Maple Leafs, although I do think they have played a little bit better as of late. They're still not getting the results, and many feel that a couple of guys that have been healthy scratches lately are very much available, expendable, and could be swapped to try to shake things up. That being Jake Virtanen as well as Adam Gaudette. Now, Virtanen's a player we've talked about on a few occasions. Elliot Friedman mentioned again that he feels the Bruins are a team that's been kind of poking around, interested in Virtanen. We talked yesterday about a potential Virtanen-DeBrusk deal, and I said I didn't think that's something that Boston would do. I think they have interest in Virtanen, but it wouldn't be for DeBrusk. I really don't see that being a scenario. It'd have to be something much more appealing to them involved. Virtanen has really not played well his last 25, 35 games, hasn't put up a whole lot of offense. So really, at this point, he's going to want a fresh start. You're going to have to, exchange it for somebody else in the same kind of boat, or something much lower valued than what Jake DeBrusk would be. But Adam Gaudette's in a similar situation. Obviously, he's been in and out of the lineup, and he might be another guy that Vancouver could move here to shake things up and get something back. Clearly, they could use some help on the blue line. Canucks defense core has not been playing overly well. There's been all kinds of defensive mistakes and miscues. So maybe they adjust things that way. Hard to say. Virtanen and Gaudette could be even packaged together, perhaps. But either way, they're both names that Elliot Friedman recently brought up on NHL Network as pieces that the Canucks likely are shopping around, trying to find a way to shake things up here. A lot of people are concerned and thinking too that either head coach Travis Green or GM Jim Benning very well could be on the hot seat and find themselves out of a job soon if things don't turn around. So I would think that Benning's probably feeling the pressure, and we very well could see some moves coming soon so that he kind of shows that he's trying to make things better before he himself loses a job. But as I've said before, I'm not sure that Benning's really that close to being fired. I mean, I would think because he's under contract for a while yet that the Aquilini's probably would keep him on a little bit longer, but I do have concerns over Travis Green. Not that he's a great coach, but it's just something is terribly wrong in the Canucks organization. It's just not there. The effort's not there. And maybe it's a case of the personnel just not being right, but it's I don't know. I can't put my finger on it with Vancouver, but where Green doesn't have a contract beyond the current season, I would think that he's probably the most at risk out of everybody. But I think before we see anything like that happen, we're more likely going to see a trade or two. It just makes it complicated trading with their American teams, because if they send these guys to a U.S.-based team, they're going to be waiting for about 2 weeks to get the help that's coming back the other way to be able to play after they go through their isolation. So that's certainly making trades amongst Canadian and U.S. teams very complicated right now. It certainly cuts down the number of teams you can talk to without avoiding that. So that is all your latest news and rumors for today. So let me know your thoughts and opinions and everything discussed down below in the comments, and we can discuss further. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing and turning on your notifications so you don't miss any future content. And give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. I'd appreciate it if you did. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.